applied to uni. So I applied for 6 courses at the same university. Just had no idea what I was doing, just blagging it. Suicide rates in teenage girls have gone up. You see where social media started, and then you see the charge.
Yeah, and then you have that massive...
They have to overcome so much more at such a much younger age. So I'm actually come from a family of introverts.
Hopefully they'll care about this podcast.
Yeah, they'll love this one.
Anyway,
this is the main one.
The best one
Subscribe.
Ever. Subscribe. Yeah, go on, carry on. Thank you for that. That was good. That was good advertisement. I'm not doing very good with my intern right now.
You're the person inspired by. Actually, Jay-Z.
Okay.
I don't know why I fucking didn't start with that. Who am I? Am I a caveman? Jay-Z. 100%.
Bravo, man. That was amazing.
Thank you, bro.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Babylonia Media and our very first podcast series, The Entrepreneur's Experience. When they're starting off on their journey, entrepreneurs love being surrounded by other creative and energetic people working in flexible workspaces. So it's very appropriate that this series is sponsored by SpaceMade. SpaceMade transforms buildings to create enjoyable and immersive working spaces for entrepreneurs and remote workers alike. We in Babylonia have a space at one of the locations and have found it a great environment to work in. SpaceMade has accessible workspaces throughout the UK. Check them out at www.spacemade.co. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show.
Yeah, we're good? Yeah, we're all good. Okay, Entrepreneur's Experience, episode 5.
5. Winning.
5. Jay Richard.
Yes.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you, my friend.
You are the founder of Imagen Insights, which provides brutally honest insights from Gen Z. My first question would be, when you embarked on your, I guess, business career or even working career, is this what you expected you'd be doing 10 years down the line?
Hell the fuck no. What did I expect to be doing? So actually, I expected to be it's funny, the conversation we had just before this, I expected to be a real estate agent, like managing some kind of estate agent.
That was the first thing that hit you.
That was my dream. That was like, I was like, oh, I'm going to be an estate agent. And
as in straight out of uni?
Yeah, I was like, I'm going to buy a shit ton of houses and just work my way up the corporate ladder. Always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I always saw it as like maybe it's something you do when you get a little bit more cash. But
yeah.
But yeah, man. So it wasn't exactly like a massive dream. Do you know what I mean? I didn't want to be like president or anything. I couldn't have been.
Okay, well, so you'd say in the initial stage at least, it was very much just focused on what money can I make and something that would fit around that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what money can I make? How quickly can I make this money? And I've always been good at sales. So for me, it was like it's a no-brainer going to something where the barrier to entry is super low. Estate agency. They let anybody sell houses, don't they?
And then sales, I assume now, even that's something you focus on within your business, right? Yeah,
100%. That's all I do. That's my day in and my day out, and that stuff. So I've been selling stuff since I was like 14 or 15, maybe even younger. So for me, it's kind of just a natural progression. Do you know what I mean? So even when I went from shotting stuff or whatever when I was in school to friggin' working my first job straight out of uni to then being headhunted for whatever other roles. I did door-to-door selling alarm systems, door-to-door business.
Okay. That's quite a classic historic sort of entrepreneur's story, isn't it? I went door-to-door, sold alarms. Did you sell many?
I was actually very good at my job. Like, I just enjoyed it because it was good banner because you walked in and they just didn't want to buy from you.
Did you do that in London, sorry?
Birmingham and London, yeah. So I did, there's a road in Birmingham called I think it's a Stratford High Road or Stratford Street or something like that. Walk up and down there all day, every day, trying to sell alarm systems, camera systems, anything they'd buy from me. And then, started doing it in London. So I was selling alarm systems in Halsden.
Yeah, it's not an easy place
exactly,
to sell. Yeah.
So I'm on Church Road selling alarm systems. So nobody can question me about my sales game.
That's going to be great when people from like Turkey go, oh, where's Church Road? Tell us, so you mentioned Birmingham. That's where you went to uni, right?
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about that experience for uni in general, because obviously I read that you ended up buying a nightclub at one point. Which is really interesting. So I guess tell us a bit about that. But before that, what was your general uni experience? I know some people do it for the sake of it, right? Some people just get a degree or there's nothing else they can do. Other people, they really enjoyed it. So I guess those are the two tandem questions about uni. Yeah,
I think, so in my family, everybody goes to uni. It's not like it's a thing. So only my eldest brother didn't go to uni. That's because he was a first. So it was kind of like, my mum and dad isn't expected you to go to uni. This is what you did. But I was like, maybe a couple of months before everyone's going to uni. Mm-hmm. And I hadn't applied for anything. So I was like, I don't want to go to uni. I didn't really want to go to uni. All my mates was at college at the time, and all my mates were like, oh, well, I've applied for this uni. And I just felt the pressure. I was like, shit, I need to apply to uni. So I applied for 6 courses at the same university. I just had no idea what I was doing, just blagging it. So applied for these courses, got accepted on all 6, obviously, because they're like, who's a stroker.
Okay, fine. Yeah. They just liked you for your personality.
Exactly. Yeah. So went to university, and I was just that guy. So I'm very good at exams. So I will just not do anything for the entire period I'm at uni, and then I would get all the knowledge I needed the day before the exam, and then brain dump when I went into the exam and pass it. And then I was always the guy that would do nothing in the group work, but I would do the presentation. So my group was I'd normally work with like the Chinese or the Chinese students, because they were just phenomenal. Their work ethic was next level. But they didn't.
And they put together all the information. You just put it out.
And they never wanted to do the presentation.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, then you guys do all the legwork, and I'll do the presenting. And they loved it because they were like, oh, perfect. Jay will do the talking. We'll leave him to it. So that was my uni experience. And then the nightclub thing actually came from, I was promoting for Sense nightclub, which is a horrendous nightclub, which was next door to Oceana. So you're never going to win, are you? Everyone's going to like Vodball at Oceana. I'm out here trying to flog my £3 tickets to Sense. And then while I was doing that, the guy there had a really messy divorce with his wife and wanted to liquidate all his assets. So he had another nightclub called Chocolate. Obviously, it's great choice. So he had this other nightclub called Chocolate, and I was like, when he was liquidating assets, my mate was like, I'll buy his Range Rover, and I was like, I'll buy your nightclub. So I managed to scrape some money together for a few friends who were street pharmacists, and then was able to buy this club.
And sorry, so elaborate on how you actually got the money together.
So trying to think what I can say. So I've got friends that had money, and I just approached them and I was like, yo, I want to buy this. It's an asset. We could all eat from this. And did that.
Okay. Amazing.
I ran that while I was at uni.
Yeah.
And this was when like Facebook was massive. So I used to just get there because in Birmingham, you've got Villa, you've got West Brom, you've got Birmingham City, and then a little bit further out, you've got Walsall. So it's like 4 big clubs. I basically went to all the footballers that I knew in the clubs, and I was like, lads, if you come to my nightclub, I will sort you out. You get all the balls you need around there. I said, all right, they come down. So once they started coming down, I went to all the pretty girls, and I was like, look, all these footballers I have in my club. And they were like, oh, perfect. It's a pretty girls started coming. And then all the ugly lads.
It's a simple formula.
Exactly. All the ugly lads that had nothing to do on a Friday, Saturday night would come down because you see all these beautiful women and standing out. And my nightclub was next to Medusa's, which is a strip club.
Okay.
So it was perfect.
So it worked. Yeah, all the lonely guys ended up going to the strip club.
Exactly. But yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it.
Just... On your early career, just a little bit about that. I read that you went from thinking about, you wanted to sell out at say 35, to thinking, oh, now I want to brand that stage moment when I die. I found that really, really interesting. A couple of reasons why. I think what we're trying to do at Babylonia fits with that ideal. Yeah. The case of create something that's sort of, dare I say it, sort of culturally important, and something that can actually have an impact and maybe educate or wherever it may be. And I'm not saying I would never sell it if I was lucky enough to get to a stage where I got offered something, but the concept of actually having that impact really, really matters to me and what we're trying to do. So I had real parallels there. But do you see the parallels as well? Is that what you're aligned with? And was there a bit more to it on top of that?
Yeah, good question, man. And I love what you guys are building. I think it's the mission behind it is always key. And for what we're doing, so our entire mission is to help Gen Z to shape their future. And we know the best way for them to do that is with brands. Because brands shape countries and culture like Donald Trump only wishes he could. So for us, really, it's just at the core of who we are. And that's why there's a big reason about when you're choosing a co-founder, you need to have somebody that has the same values as you. So my co-founder, Kat, she's a phenomenal human being. Portuguese descent, grew up in South London, 18 years in the, I won't tell you her age because she'll kill me, but 18 years in the marketing space. She's just a genius. When I brought her on board, I had people from Downing Street, number 10, DMing me on LinkedIn, like, how the hell did you manage to hire Kat type thing? Like, she's that level of human being. And when you've both got this, almost like these core values that are kind of like, really, we want to build something that outlasts us. And even if that meant, because I think sometimes people think, okay, you have to exit the business and then kind of like the mission dies because the founder's kind of gone. And for me, the way I look at it is, even if they will get to a point where I'm very good at starting things and those initial stages, first 5-10 years type thing, and I can foresee that when we're 10 years deep or 8 years deep or whatever it may be, I will bring in somebody that could take it that much further.
Master the longevity.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, and I think for me, that's the way Kat and I look at it is it will outlast us. So whether that's in our lifespan or whether that's actually in our lifespan within the business, we just see it just continues to go, because the thing with Imagen is that it's adding so much value, not only to our consultants, so to the Gen Z that we work with, but also brands. because we literally had a brand email me last night at 10 p.m. An agency, emailed me at 10 p.m. Yo, I need this for 2 p.m. tomorrow, knowing that our community would deliver. And it's that kind of rapport that we've built in such a short period of time that you want to keep going for the next 10, 15, 20, 40 years, whatever it may be.
On the company as a whole, could you just do a very quick rounded sort of explanation of what the concept is and who you guys are? Because obviously we didn't really do that at the start, but I think just for the sake of it, we should lay that out there. Yeah,
perfect, man. So as I said a second ago, our entire mission is to help Gen Z shape their future. Best way for them to do it is with brands. So what we do is we enable agencies to brands to crowdsource feedback, ideas or insights from our community of Gen Z. So basically we have just under 2,000 Gen Z globally now. So we had a guy sign up in Barbados, so there's a super...
Under 2,000?
Okay, globally. Yeah. So basically we're a small agency that can swing real big because we have a massive community. And basically the way it works is there's feedback and ideation. So feedback is a brand will come to us and say, we've got 3 marketing ideas we want to aim at Gen Z. We can take those ideas, send them to our community. And within 72 hours, the brand can get qualitative data from our community saying, this is the one idea we love. This is why we love it, and this is how you can improve it. So for that brand, they need have everything they need to make a next step decision. And then the other side of things, that's feedback, and the other side of things is the ideation. So a brand comes and goes, we have no idea what we want to do. We can go to our community and say, if you were going to create an e-commerce platform for FIFA, what would it be? So they can come up with all that for brands or for agencies or whatever. So it's really, we're a crowdsourced engine for everything Gen Z, and our community is just fucking phenomenal, if I'm being honest.
And how did you even get to this idea in the first place? I mean, you're not Gen Z yourself, and not that much older, but he's not Gen Z yourself. But how did you source that idea, and how do you get to it? Because obviously, like you said, you started off, being an estate agent. So I always find it interesting, the progress of, and all the different jobs people do that lead up to the source idea. But how did you get there?
Yeah, it's a good question, bro. So I was working at a health insurance firm, and while I was there, I was one of the area consultants that looked after a whole chunk of the country. And while I was doing that, just meeting with clients, whatever, I started a startup incubator. So basically just taking my own personal money and investing it in young people's businesses. Because basically it's what somebody did for me when I was in school. So I wanted to just repay the favor.
Is that the business studies teacher?
Yes,
we will touch on that later.
We'll go into that.
Okay,
so someone did that for me when I was in school. So I was like, okay, let me do the same. So I just took £500 here, grand here, whatever. I was like, hey, love your business. Here's £500. Go off, do your thing. If it blows, whatever. Just helping people get off the ground. And off the back of that, as you can imagine, I amassed a massive network of secondary age and university age students that were kind of like, Jay's the guy, he's just sick, he doesn't really want anything from us. So they just trusted me. So I amassed this massive network. And then I was speaking at an event at Facebook, and one of the folks in the audience was the head of retail at NFL. And she's like, hey, love what you guys are doing. We're not really interested in the startup stuff, but is there any chance anybody in your community would be interested in helping us do a marketing campaign? Me being a salesman, that's all I needed to hear. I was like, 100%, sorted, done. That's what we do all the time, whatever. Went back to who was my team at the time, and I was like, we need to figure out how we're going to do this. And they were just like, what? Like, this has nothing to do with what we're building now. I was like, I do not care. If this is a problem for them, it's going to be a problem for other people. Delivered for the NFL, they loved it, then got referrals from them, and then pivoted the entire business, changed the business name, found a co-founder, just literally from that moment, that was April 2019, pivoted the entire business. And then by August, we were operating a completely different entity and everything was just completely changed. So that's how we got to that.
Wow. I find it very interesting when people talk about how they start their business, right? And essentially you got offered something not even knowing what to do and you sort of went into it. I'm personally, with what I'm doing, I've very much had a source of an idea. I've had it in my head quite a long time, and I put pen to paper, and I really quite heavily prepped. And I think either way kind of works. Sometimes 100%. Just steam into it and get into it. Why do you think just steaming into it worked in your situation, or was it just a case of no choice and then go forward? I
think you have to find a problem. I think 90% of people I meet that are starting businesses aren't solving a fucking problem. I'm like, so who's solving a problem for? Well, it's just a good idea. I'm like, it's not. But you don't answer my question. Who's solving a problem for? And that's what it is. And I think for us, I probably, if I'm being completely transparent, what I was doing before would probably have lasted another couple of years and I would stop doing it. Mm-hmm. Because really, it was solving a problem for the young people, but they're not buying anything from you. So it was a means to an end. I didn't realize it at the time, but it was a means to an end. And I think with what we're doing now, it's solving such a huge problem for so many different people that it's just gold dust. And I think you have to, with what my personality type, if I find a problem and I know it needs solving, I will drive that thing into the ground. So it's a prime example of this is when I was in primary school, I was year 4 or 5. Basically, I just fucking hated my primary school. And so how old are you in primary school? Like 4 or 5, year 4?
Yeah, I can't remember, to be honest.
I was maybe 10 or 11.
Around that age,
yeah, 9, 10, 11 years old. And I go to my parents, I'm like, I want to move primary school to this other primary school. So we lived up north at the time. So we lived in a place called Stoke-on-Trent, which is predominantly white people.
Yeah.
So I'm in a primary school that's predominantly white people. And there was another primary school that was super mixed. And I was like, I want to go to that primary school. Parents were like, nah, you can't do it. I pleaded with the school, you can't do it. So one day I just went to school and I just went home. My mom dropped me off at school and I went home. I said, until you take me to that new primary school, I'm not doing it. That's a problem I saw that needed solving.
Yeah.
And that was like 10, 11 years old. I didn't even know about this story.
Why did you feel that? Just like, I mean, let's not go too heavy on the political side or whatever you want to do, but just the basic instinct, what was that about?
I think for me, it was the frustration that there was nobody, especially where I lived, and back then it was super racist. So it was always those snide comments. It was only me and my little sister in the school. So we were the only black kids in the entire school. So it was always these snide little comments growing up. And in my head, it was kind of like, this is a thing that pisses me off. I need to solve it. The only way I can solve this is by going there.
Yeah.
So for me, I just left the school and I did it repeatedly for a week until my mum then moved me into the other primary school. And then she then moved my little sister into the other primary school.
Wow.
And I think that for me, to tell the truth, I completely forgot about the story until my mom told me at Christmas.
Yeah.
She's like, do you not remember that? And I was like, I literally had no idea I did that. And she was like, it's hilarious because she's like, you've been like this from younger. So for me, it's always been if I see a problem and it pisses me off enough, I'm going to go solve it. Once the NFL came with that problem and they were like, hey, we're struggling with this, I was like, hey, let's make it work. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I totally get that. So NFL was your first client ever. What are the other standout clients and in this 2-year process? Also, just actually slightly divert on that. You know, when you started, you were on your own, and then Kat, your co-founder, joined. It was a different company name at that point. Was that when you did the NFL project, or was it as Kat came on?
So the initial NFL project, the first one we ever did was as Div Inc. I know it's a horrendous name. Sorry, I'm not very good at the branding.
No, it's fine. I read it. It was fine. I thought it was right. Imagen makes more sense.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So I had a team of 5 or 6. 5? I can't remember. But a team of 5 or 6 back then under Div Inc. So they were doing the incubator stuff with me, helping get that into schools. And
you did get offered the NFL contract
while we were that, yeah. And then as we began to pivot, NFL were kind of like, who's this new Imagen? Like, what? And I was kind of like, this is who we are now. So as we were in this process of doing that work with them, we then became Imagen, and they loved the new name anyway, which was cool.
And tell me how, I know you touched on it before, but how you came across Kat, your co-founder. And it's a shame she can't be here, but we'll definitely do another one, hopefully. How you came across it and why, you know, I always find the business partner dynamic so interesting because it's, you know, there's such a big element of trust and trusting the dynamic and so on and so forth. How did you come across her and what's her real value to you personally?
LinkedIn. It's mad. So literally, I wasn't even looking for a co-founder. I was looking for a head of operations. So I was just put a job advertisement on LinkedIn like, yo, does anybody want to be my head of ops? Met a lot of people, mainly women. I love having an all-female team because shit just gets done. So
that's interesting. You actually think women are more efficient in
100%,
the logistical,
bro.
operational sense in particular?
100%. Just like I was literally read a quote today. I want to say it was on. I can't remember the name of the thing, but it's basically a researcher, and she was saying that teams that have more women actually end up doing better than teams with predominantly men. But anyway, it's a whole other discussion for another time. But so I put advert out on LinkedIn for a head of ops. She applied. Loads of other people applied. I interviewed them all. And her and I went for walks around East London for hours. Like we just walked and talked and for hours, just talking to each other, just talking about what we're dreaming about, like just visions about where we could see the business going. And I left every single time I met her, I just left inspired.
So you just recognised that she was on the same level
100%,
as you as far 100%. As perception and that.
Yeah,
sort of.
And I knew I couldn't. And my favourite thing was that she came in and said, if I'm coming in, I want to be a co-founder. And I just love the ballsiness of that.
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot of women I know that would come into a new business and just be like, fuck it, this is what I want.
Yeah.
And then even better than that, the equity stake she pitched me at, I was like, what?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I started, but she was like, nah, this is what I want.
This
and
is
I
what
respect
my value is.
And I respect.
I guess you respect that because you'd probably come in with the same.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it was the bravado being coming in, just being like, this is what I want. This is what I should get. And yeah, we just complement each other. She hates public speaking. She hates sales. She hates all that kind of stuff. I hate ops. I cannot stand it. I do not want to be. Once I've won the client, I can't even. My brain can't even operate.
Yeah. You're not into the meticulous nature of operations.
And she loves that. She absolutely loves it. She's spreadsheets. She's like, we always put together massive reports for clients, and she loves it. I come in, she's like, and I'm just like, I just look stressed even looking at the screen. Like, I just want to go out and meet people. Do you know what I mean? I can't even freaking do that at the moment. But I just like the sales stuff. She loves that. So we literally talk. We couldn't be any different, but we get on so well.
Those polar opposites you feel in this particular one, works incredibly.
100%.
And are you quite? I guess it's obvious for you. Sometimes I ask people, you know, when someone comes in and they're quite strict with their roles and responsibilities, and do you lay it out? But I guess it just naturally went that way anyway. You didn't have to overdo the rigidity of it at the start.
Yeah, basically all I did was, when she first landed, I took her to a client meeting, and I was like, all right, pitch. She fucking hated it.
Okay.
She was like, I never want to do this ever again in my entire life. And I was like, cool, I hate ops. I was like, I just need to see if you would like this. You don't? Perfect. I'll stick to this. You stick to that, and we're done.
And what was her experience that even led you to feel she could do it in the first place?
She's every single acronym agency that exists, she's been at. Ex-OMD, ex-Starcom, ex-BuzzFeed. I could reel off her entire thing, but she's been in the game for about 18 years.
Sure.
And head of digital BuzzFeed, head of digital wherever. She's there. She was in agencies in Australia as well. She's just got a wealth of. Sometimes I just ask her stuff, and I'm just like, I have no idea what this acronym is. I have no idea what this person said.
I'd probably be the same. Yeah.
Literally. And I'm like, decode that for me, man. Say that in English. And she's just like, blah blah blah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get that. Just sticking with the whole Imagen Insights, should we say, culture? Mm-hmm. How did you create all these people to come and join you and be a part of it? And could you also elaborate a bit on the incentive financially for the younger generation? Yeah,
perfect. So firstly, how do we get them involved? It's referrals. So a large percentage of our business has been built around people consultants doing work with us, loving what they do, and then going to their friends and family saying, hey, you need to sign up for this. So it's just been amazing from that, because the growth just from within the community has been amazing. One thing I love about our community is super diverse. So 65% of our community is female, 35% are black, 25% Asian, 10% are from the LGBTQ plus community. Mm-hmm. So it's actually a genuinely diverse community. So then what happens is, as people are referring their friends, that diversity sticks, which is great. Yeah. So that's how really it's referral based. We don't do much outreach. We don't do much like, hey, come join our community. Our community just grows organically, which is cool. And then with regards to remuneration, the way it works is everybody is rewarded for every single insight they provide, to make sure that people don't try and game the system. The algorithm picks up if you record a video and there's nothing on it, or if you enter a piece of like a PDF and there's only one page or whatever, the algorithm just picks up people like that and it'll flag it to us, so that we can then be like, okay, they've done this 3 times, kick them off the platform. But everybody is given almost like a coin for every insight. If your insight is chosen by the client, so say for example, we get 600 insights for a client. If your insight is chosen by that client, you get paid cash, cold hard cash into your account. If that client then asks for you to come in-house, which some clients do, you then get paid a larger amount. So for a consultant, they're always getting rewarded for what they're providing. The system
is all semi sort of freelance, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. It's and I think the reason why it works for them, because a lot of them are like, hey, I've got a full-time job.
Or they're at uni or whatever it may be.
100%. Yeah. So it's like the work we got last night. If I'd gone out to the normal consultant freelance world, it would have taken me a week to get that, to get what we needed for the client. But I got it in under 24 hours because our community is super.
And you, am I right in thinking you have an app that sort of people can submit stuff quite quickly, which obviously gives you that immediate reaction.
Yeah. So push notification goes through to them. They see it, boom, love it, done, straight back.
And obviously just very keen, because there's at least a not a huge financial incentive, but something there for them to do, and especially in the student market. That must be great.
Yeah, 100%. They love it, because it's like, I'm rewarded every single time. I'm always getting paid. And I can get I think the biggest one is, so we had one of our consultants, I won't mention the client because it hasn't completely gone through yet, but she did some work with the client for us. and the client hired her as a junior marketer the following week. Like, you never get that. There is, in our world, in our space, you never get somebody of that age getting to be in the room with a brand, delivering, pitching work, like, ever. It just doesn't happen. You normally need to wait 5-10 years to career. You need to be a senior.
Yeah, 100%.
Whatever. These guys in the room straight out of university.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean?
And arguably they offer a better insight as well.
Yeah, 100. Oh, like, vastly, because they haven't got they're not bogged down, which is probably why, for me, I've done quite well in space, because I don't have that marketing background. So I've come in and I'm like, why the fuck do we do it like that?
Well, I often think that the self-educated sort of person, or the person that discovers the interests and the self-education aspect on their own, tends to have less, should we say, variables that contribute to narrowing their perspective. Exactly right. And I found that really interesting with your thing. Just touching on that, you talked a lot, when I was reading, you talked a lot about what you call underestimated communities. I'm really interested in that on one level, because what does that mean to you? That would be my question. In the sense that I think there's a real array of people within that underestimated bracket. Yeah. But what's your category there? Yeah,
for me, it's women, people of color, those from the LGBTQ plus community, and disabled people. That's normally what I'm grouping there. Or those from a low socioeconomic background. Yeah. Because normally, and the thing is, I think one thing that people hear when they hear something like underestimated or whatever, they're like, okay, you're saying because I'm middle class from this area, I've had it easy. And I'm not.
I think that's a good point.
Yeah, and 100%, and we're not taking away from that at all. I agree. Like, I don't think you've had it easy, because I know so many of my friends have had to graft their ass off.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Do you know what I mean? Agree. So it's not me saying it's almost like the Black Lives Matter thing.
Yeah.
Saying Black Lives Matter does not mean that all lives don't matter. It's just saying that black people are getting shot in the street, so it's a slightly different conversation. And that's all it is. It's just saying, we're not saying that so-and-so hasn't had to graft. We know you've had to graft. But what we're saying is the graft is slightly different, because if you and I walk into a room in a board meeting with AMV, BBDO, they're going to talk different to you than they will to me. It just is what it is. And it's kind of, a lot of the time, and that you literally could have had to fucking work your ass off like crazy to get to that position, but just based on however the world currently views people, that's just how that conversation will go. And I think it's sometimes to understand, because my dad basically is a white guy, so
yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky. Sorry to interject there.
No, go.
It's funny. When I was reading, I was quite interested in this, because for me, I'm sure people will perceive me as a middle class privileged white guy. But the background as to how I got to being a middle class privileged white guy, which I'm not even necessarily sure I am, I went to a good school, is based on my mother coming from a super working class background, and but working her ass off so I can go to private school. Yeah, 100%. So I have no problem. I'll put that out there all day. So it was very interesting, and I'm kind of glad you expressed it the way you did, because it's important to me, I think. Not just because I'm a white guy or whatever, but it's important to me that I think we do try and consider, and this is something I also want to talk about more within Babylonia, that every individual, like you said, whether they're rich or not, they have their own variables that contribute to who they are.
It's context.
And it's context, exactly. It's context. And let's understand the bigger picture, and it could be really useful. So it's great. It's great that you put it like that. Yeah. It's quite, and so on that point, you're not necessarily edging out over race. You're saying that the race is a factor, but if there's socioeconomic issues within a white guy or whatever it may be, 100%. That's also very, 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 very relevant.
And the crazy thing is, your mum coming from a working class background, without you realizing, would have affected your childhood without you even clocking. There you go. And I think a lot of the time, so my only thing that I'm always calling people to do is, if you're in a room, always make sure everyone's heard. That's all I give. That's my big thing. That's all I bang the drum for. I'm like, if I'm in a room and I notice that the woman in the room is not getting to talk much, I'll be like, yo, shut the fuck up, Nigel. Let's hear her talk. What does she have to say? Do you know what I mean? And I think it's that kind of. It's that if all of us do
Nigel's
that,
a great name to fit with the middle class white guy. Nigel, be quiet.
I'm like, shut up, Nige. And I think that's, for me, if all of us do that, if all of us walk into rooms and just go, hey, actually wait there, the gay guy hasn't got to have to, or the lesbian, or these people haven't got to speak. If we're constantly conscious of that, then.
But your big emphasis is on everybody having the right to speak, and it's an all bracket thing.
Yeah.
I've got to say, I think that's amazing. I really do agree with you on that, and I see so many parallels in what we're trying to do in the sense of with your company as a whole, but in the sense of expose different subjects, raise the point on a bigger issue, not trying to over let's not put an agenda on the idea.
Yeah.
Let's just put it out there and convey it and let people discover the relatable aspect, which is,
great.
I've got to tell you, I do think that's fantastic, and I really commend you for it. So we're back. Now I've remembered my question, and we changed the angles of the chair because it just looks better. First thing I was going to say is, I've noticed that you have a column in digital, what is it?
Oh, there's loads.
we got loads, okay.
New
All right.
Digiday. Nah, as in people ask you to write stuff.
But you have one that you do weekly or monthly, and it's digital something. Sorry, I can't remember the website.
I think it's New Digiday. I want to say, yeah, I do.
And you said in that you think arguably Gen Z are the hardest working generation.
Yeah.
Could you? I mean, my initial. So you have your initial thought there, and then you have thinking about it more.
Yeah.
And also us being millennials, I think there's quite a few parallels. I think we have a slightly different experience, but there are parallels there, especially on the stuff that, again, you mentioned in that particular article about how hard it is to get on the property ladder and that sort of thing. But why do you feel that, or at least it's an arguable point?
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. It's probably the first time I've been asked that. I think some of that actually probably comes from the world they've grown up in, because they're digital natives. So the first ones, we didn't really grow up in that. Do you know what I mean? I
always say we're lucky we still were allowed to roll around in grass.
Exactly. Do you know what I mean? Like I remember climbing trees and stuff. Like these don't climb trees.
Which is concerning, by the way.
Yeah, mate, super. But we won't figure it out for another 50 years. And they'll be like, oh, by the way, climbing trees was a great idea. Yeah. Let's get everybody outside. Norwegians still do it apparently, which is probably why their schooling system's amazing. But anyway, sidetracked. I think they are the hardest working generation simply for the fact that they have to overcome so much more at such a much younger age than we did.
In what sense?
In the sense of social media. So for me, when you're looking at the way, have you watched Social Dilemma yet on Netflix?
Funny enough, someone literally told me about that yesterday.
Yeah, watch that.
They said I should watch it for the sake of what I'm doing.
Yes, yeah. So watch that because it's phenomenal. But one of the things that I find interesting is that suicide rates in teenage girls have gone up. Self-harm rates in teenage girls have gone up. And I'm not talking like 10, 15%. Over the last 10 years, they've gone up like 130% or something madness like that. Like it's just like exploded. And you see where social media started and then you see the charge.
Yeah,
explode.
and then you have that massive increase with men as well, which is scary. That's so unexpected.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I think they're having to mentally, because we know what it's like to be mentally going through all this stuff, but you're mentally going through it in a whole new way now, and something that's basically untested. Because realistically, social media is fully untested. There was no the FDA weren't like, oh hey, let's
there's no regulation.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's just like it's wild. It's like a free for all. So you've got that. Then you've also got the fact that you've got the recession that's happening right now. Then you've also got the fact that you've got the pandemic that's going on right now. All these different factors are all happening at the exact same point in time. Plus the fact that generations slightly older than us have absolutely fucked up the planet. So they're having to deal with all of that. So they're constantly having to deal with all of this stuff coming in while also still trying to achieve the things that were the quote unquote norm, not probably for us, but for our parents.
Do you think the difference is the psychological aspect and the impact that has on social media?
Yes.
Do you think that's the real differentiating factor?
Yeah, because for us, we didn't have that growth. We technically still had a childhood.
Yeah.
I speak to 13-year-olds and they're just like, all they care about is social media.
I mean, mate, I see it creeping into myself now. The more it's funny. Like I always think, when I was 21, I didn't really give a shit about certain elements of social media, or like maybe let it affect me personally because whatever. Maybe I was younger and it wasn't quite as prominent. Whereas now it's so in your face, no matter what. I can't imagine if I was like 13, how detrimental that would be.
We're grown men, bro. I'm 30. I had to come off WhatsApp. I had to come off Instagram. I had to come off Twitter because it's still there, but I don't have the apps on my phone. And I have to, every time I want to WhatsApp somebody, I re-download the app to WhatsApp somebody. That's how intense it is. Because I know if I don't create that barrier to entry, I will just constantly be on the phone. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And I used to look at my screen time. I'm like, who the fuck was that guy?
I don't like doing that.
Do you know what I mean?
Because it's true, especially now when we're doing this. Like, I want you to use the internet for the right reasons.
Yes.
And want people to understand that when we're talking that.
Yeah.
Use the internet. You listen to this conversation. Go, God, fuck me, that was amazing. That was so interesting.
Yeah.
But now use that. Put your head up and talk into the outside.
100%. 100%.
That's so important.
And it's mad, like, I always challenge people, because I do it sometimes. I like to go to the park and just sit down. So I normally ride my motorbike into the middle of nowhere, sit down in the park, like in some random part of Essex or something, and just watch people. I love people watching.
Yeah.
And the amount of couples you see on their phones together, the amount of people you just see and they're just walking. And I'm thinking, it's actually mad. Obviously, they could be doing anything, whatever. They could be changing the world on their phones, which are probably a lot of them are. But the way you just see the world now, we're all walking with our heads down, and it's not like it's not the end of the world. But to me, it's
you
kind
say
of.
that, but I wonder sometimes. I honestly do. It's so addictive, and like you said, you have to actually, because you've got the presence of mind to do it. You actually delete the app and so on and so forth. Like I know my a family member was talking to me about this because he's in the academic world, and they've done all these studies in South Korea, about how people now go on social media detoxes where they get all the stuff taken away from them, and it's almost like a mental asylum. And some of these kids are going nuts, like they can't handle it.
Yeah.
And it's very on point what you say, that definitely is the differentiating factor.
It's a whole nother world, bro. And the thing that scares me is that we're not doing enough research into it. And we're kind of, the folks like Facebook and stuff, and I don't want to talk too much because potentially I wanted to be a client, but you talk about the folks like Facebook.
Hey, Facebook.
Yeah, for real, like, hey, Gen Z. No, jokes. But you look at what they're doing, and it's kind of, they're beefing the government.
Yeah, I mean, there's more accountability coming, though, isn't there?
We're gonna rig your presidential election, and there's probably not so much you can do about it.
Well, yeah, it's
you need to watch Social Dilemma.
Yeah, I will. I mean, a good friend of mine who the episode before you, we spoke to him. He did his phrase he uses is he says the internet is the windows of the world, which I think is such a good way to put it.
Real.
And it really is. It's the insight to everyone. So if we start to understand that, and going back to what we've talked about before about let's get this in front of as much people as we can, and it's quite clear there's no agenda here. We're just talking. We want to paint a picture. We want to do something right and let people take from it what they want. And you know, I think I mentioned this to you when we first talked before we ever recorded. But if people can educate themselves and listen for a conversation like this is what will be the right side of the internet.
Yeah, 100%. And I think for me, when I was speaking to my therapist a few months back, and I was like, the moment I deleted Instagram and Twitter off my phone, it's almost like I could physically feel the weight lift off my shoulders. I was like, because now, and I've got, you got the screen time thing. So I have to actually go to a family member to get them to put the screen time thing. So then I can actually go on and have to re-download the app store back on my phone so then I can re-download. There's so many steps to go onto Instagram and Twitter for me now that I just don't care anymore. And it's amazing what that does for your mental health.
But you still see the use in the right capacity.
Yeah.
Limited, obviously, hence the regulation aspect.
Yes, yeah. And that's the thing. If I really need to go on there and do something, I'll go on there. But for me, it's the place a lot of my business is done is LinkedIn. I don't think we've ever landed a client from Instagram or Twitter. But LinkedIn, I land clients.
But on the Gen Z point, surely access to them helps on the Instagram thing, or
me,
not really?
For me, not personally. For my community lead, maybe for my co-founder, they're more engaged with that. For the community, if I want to say something, I'll just record a video, which I do on a regular basis. I send a video out to them, and a lot of them have got my mobile number, so they'll just text me and be like, "Yo, blah 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 blah." So I'm like, if you want me, call me.
Sure. Yeah. Let's have a conversation. Dare I say it? Let's have a real conversation.
Let's meet up in real life.
What's really interesting what you're saying there, and I think maybe let's touch on that more. Would you have any personal advice on managing that side with regards to how it affects you and how you regulate it to yourself? That means it's manageable and essentially doing what you're doing at the moment.
Yeah, I think everything's. I'm always careful about giving like a blanket advice. Yeah, because I think what works for me wouldn't work for you, and vice versa. And I think it's. I think everybody has to know what works best for them, and I think. For me, Instagram and Twitter are a great way to see all the things you don't have and to stress you out. If we're being honest, that's what it boils down to.
I mean, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
For me, Twitter, I think should almost be banned. I think it's a cesspool of nastiness. There's not Instagram. You could argue there's enough inspirational stuff there that you could say it does help a fair amount of people. But Twitter, the trade-off is not worth it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think for me, if I'm going on Instagram, I want to see motorbikes. I want to see people kicking each other. I want to see, like, do you know what I mean? That's I want to go on there and see people.
Just to be clear, it's not because he's into violence. It's because he likes jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai. I don't think you don't just like seeing people get kicked.
Yeah. So I go on there to watch mixed martial arts stuff. Apologies. Yeah, probably should have kept that.
That was good. It was great. Anyway, go on, carry on.
Thanks for doing that for me. So if I'm going on that, I'm going there for that specific reason, and I think everybody should do that.
Focus it on your interests.
What am I going on there for?
Yeah.
Because the good thing is the good thing about Instagram and Twitter, I suppose, is that it follows you around, so it knows what you want. So when you come back on, it'll have all of the things you want to look at. And I think if you go on there and go, okay, I've got what I wanted. So for me, it sounds terrible. There's an Instagram called Kids Getting Hurt, which is hilarious. So it's basically...
Just to be clear again, that is not because he likes seeing kids get hurt.
I love children. They're great. They're amazing. But,
I'm into Gen Z.
Yeah, for real. But it's like toddlers and just like running into doors and like getting knocked over by it's hilarious. So
you're just being honest in saying if you want a bit of light relief,
I'll go on there, I'll do that, and then I'll get off. But I think the thing is, I can't comment for anybody else, but I know I used to go on there and I'd sit for hours and look at my boy that's just sold his business, or I look at my mate that's got a beautiful missus, and I'm sat there the whole time stressed, like, what's going on in my life?
This is the thing. It's the isolation that you then feel off the back of that, which is fucking scary at times.
100%. And I think it's when I spoke to my therapist about it, she was just like, "Yo, if it's doing that to you, just remove it."
Yeah.
And it was at first, it was like, I was like, "What do you mean remove it?" Is that a thing? And she was like, "Yeah, just get rid of it." And it was instantly just felt a change.
And that simplicity just...
Mate, when I go on my phone, I literally, honest to God, I go on the phone to text people, to call people, and then to obviously check my Slack and whatever for team stuff. Mm-hmm. But I pick up my phone to do things on now. I don't just pick it on to disappear into the hole. And I'm not saying it's not for everybody, because I don't want people to feel like, I feel bad now for using social media. Because if that's what you want to do, then do that. But I'm saying for me personally, from a mental health perspective, I couldn't do it anymore.
But I think either way, you're right in the sense. It has to be limited regardless. You can't spend hours doing that, because it's going to affect your psyche at the back of your mind. Just to sort of stick with, I guess, the younger generation aspect, when you curated these communities that you have, I read that you went into schools a lot.
Yeah.
Could you tell me how even you went about that? Because it really fascinates me, and it sounds to me like on top of that, you actually had talks with younger generations, which commend you for that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I think I just started off local. So I just went to like local schools and I just bop up and be like, "Yo, I currently work doing this, but I would love to give you young people money." And obviously at first people are like, "What?"
Yeah,
how
sort of thing.
For real. And I'm like, I've set up this business and see I can invest into young people, yada yada yada. And would you be keen? And the good thing is schools are parts of trust. So if you speak at one school, they're kind of like, "Oh yeah, cool, we'll introduce you to this school," and so on and so on. So it was very easy to then get into the school network. So really, it was like almost like door-to-door sales, just going in and saying to people, "Hey, like I just want to tell them my journey. I was a little wanker when I was younger. I've sorted it out a little bit now. I'm less of a wanker now." Do you know what I mean?
Just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit less, not too much less. But just giving them that journey. I think a lot of the time, especially when I was in school, they bring people in and all you'd hear is, "I was here, now I'm here."
Yeah.
And there wasn't really that middle ground.
Yeah.
And I also think I love about your podcast is, and by the way, I love that you know all these questions off by heart. I would have been baffled, mate. I would have just been like...
Well, we took a break halfway through and I read my notes. But yeah, in general. But I think because you have to just, naturally, if the conversation is more natural, like when we weren't recording about stuff like Rogue, and what's interesting, or podcasts in general, is that if it flows and it's natural and it's a natural conversation, it leads back to the relatable aspect, and it leads back to like what you're saying now with regards to kids. Yeah. Is that you're now talking from, or expanding from whatever 12, 13 through to 30.
Yeah. And I think the thing for me is that good ideas can come from anywhere. And when I was speaking in those schools, I was just speaking to young people. I'm like, shit, that's a good idea. Like one of the young people that I put some money into, their business was, they're in Elephant and Castle. They go to a school in Elephant and Castle. If you get a puncture on your bicycle while you're out and about in Elephant and Castle, they will cycle out to you, fix your puncture, and head off. That's genius. Like, how frustrating is it when I don't really cycle bikes, so I got a motorbike, but when you're out and about and you're pang, puncture's gone, you're just like, I haven't got my kit on me. This 15-year-old will just cycle up, got the kit in the back,
and reasonably cheap, by the way.
Yeah, it was literally like £10 or £15 to like repair. And when you're out there, you'd be like, "Mate, I'll pay you freaking like," you know what I mean? And they were like Monzo it to us, which was genius. That was the killer for me. I was like, no one carries cash on me. He's like, "Oh no, we got Monzo," and I was like, "All right, mate, buy all the kits you want." I was like, off the ground. I don't know if they're still doing that. I haven't spoken to them in a while, but it's stuff like that when you hear these ideas. And I'm thinking an adult wouldn't come up with that because it's not a thing that they would think about. It's not big enough margins, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so for me, it was going into school, speaking, that then connected you to other schools. But really, it just started, I didn't start off with any kind of, I just wanted to invest money into them. That's all I cared about. And then because of that, you bought that goodwill.
Yeah.
So then people believed in you and they realised you weren't that much of a wanker.
I think what's great about what you're doing in that aspect, which again, it's amazing how many parallels there are, or at least potential parallels. But I'd love to know more about your experience with this and if you've seen this when you go to schools. But I found, even though, like we said before, I went to quite a good school, I wouldn't say I left with a huge amount of, should we say, curiosity inside of me or particular intellectual interest. I left with great friends and had an awesome time, but I didn't really leave with a particular amount of personal interest, which is again why we're doing this, because we're trying to create relatable stuff that people can listen to.
Yeah.
Did you have that experience, and also do you see that still within the educational system, or at least when you go to schools you see kids that the fundamentals of physics or whatever it is, or classic subjects just aren't really resonating, and then they do have this boredom, and then you come in and it's a whole different spark of interest, right?
Yeah. I feel school's designed for people like my little sister. So my little sister's like A's, A stars, every teacher loved her. She was just nailed it. Everybody knew she was going to go to university. Everybody knew she was going to probably become a doctor or whatever. Me, didn't have a Scooby-Doo. I was good at business, I was good at football, and I could sing. That was about it. That's all I had at school. So my teachers were just like, oh, you need to do all these other activities. And I was like, mate, can I not just sing, do business and play football? Just let me do that. And I think for people that are wired like my sister, the education system is perfect. People that are wired like me, it's horrendous, because you spend the entire time thinking you're stupid. So I spent the entirety of my school education thinking, oh, I'm stupid because I don't know about this maths, whatever. But if you ask me to do maths in a profit and loss account, man, I'm all over it. Ask me to do English in a business plan, I can do it all day. And I think it's the school system is designed for a specific subset of people, and those that aren't like that then just fall to the wayside, and they may leave being uninspired, being whatever. And I think for me, when I left school, thankfully, because of my business studies teacher and because of people that made an effort with me, I realized I'm not good at this shit, so I'm not even going to bother. When people say to me, oh, try and strengthen your weaknesses, I'm like, fuck that. Screw my weaknesses.
You see no use in that at all?
For me, I don't know if it works for other people. Yeah. For me, personally, no. Yeah. I'm good at public speaking. I'm good at sales. This is what I'm going to stick to. And I'm just going to double down on that and perfect my craft. That's it. So when I left school, I knew in my mind, I'm going to do these few things and I'm just going to do them well. And that was that for me. But then with my sister, she left and was kind of like, loved the education system, was super excited to get to uni and study biomed and whatever. And I think there are different, and even between my sister and I, there'll still be different sets of different types of people or whatever. But I didn't leave going, love school.
Yeah,
you know
so inspired. This is what I'm going to do the rest of my life.
100%. I was just kind of just like, I know what I'm kind of good at. So I'm probably going to spend the next 10, 15 years just perfecting that. And which is pretty much what I'm doing. Wow, I left school. I'm old. It's pretty much what I've been doing for that time.
Just out of interest, when you go to schools, do you see that more in young men? Because the consensus, let's say, from what you can see and what you observe and what's been talked about, that tends to be the case because it aligns with lack of interest, and then guys feeling like they've got no real use, and then and then there's that sort of lineage of thought that leads to worse mental health and feeling useless, therefore potentially committing suicide or having suicidal tendencies.
That's a good question. To be transparent, I've never really noticed it. I've never really looked out for it. I think the thing I see in school is, and it happens to me, it happens to a lot of my friends, the bad kids, the rebellious ones, are normally the ones that go out and do the wildest, most amazing shit. Because the ones that like to toe the line normally just do the normal shit. They go off and be accountants. They go, and we need them.
Yeah, I was going to say that's not bad at the same time.
100%. It's needed, because if I didn't have my accountant, I'd be fucked. Do you know what I mean? Literally, I have no idea what to send to HMRC. I'm like, they're asking me for all these forms.
What is tax?
Yeah, for real. I'm like, I have to pay that VAT. Why do I need to? Do you know what I mean? All these different little bits and pieces. So all of that stuff is needed. So a lot of my Jewish friends, accountants, and I'm like, mate, you're a legend. I love you. But I think it's one of those things where you have to, I feel like you really have to allow people just to come to a place where they know what works for them. And I feel like the school system isn't that great at that. Do you know what I mean? So when I meet a lot of these young men and women, and everybody in between, and I meet them, a lot of them, there is this pressure at school. There's have it all figured out by the time you leave school. And so many of them I meet, and they're kind of
I think everybody thinks that.
And they're like, I don't know, bro. I literally don't know what I should do.
Or they get fixated on an idea quite quickly.
Yeah.
And then they stick to it for a while, and then unfortunately, for 7, 8 years down the line, they're like, oh shit, this is not really what I enjoy.
Or your parents. So this is where parents come into. This is an interesting one. It'd be probably a question back to you. So I know a lot of friends that their parents were, these guys were first generations like Brits. So their parents were here like, you're going to become a doctor, lawyer, teacher. Outside of that, I don't give a fuck what you guys say. They're like, oh, my mom want to work in the creative industry. The create what?
Yeah.
The create who?
Great, yeah.
Yeah, I don't give a shit about that. You're a doctor, lawyer, teacher. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
I need something I can brag to your aunties and uncles about. And I think there's that pressure. Even now, I thought it would be different. But I go to schools and I used to, well, I don't so much anymore, but when I used to talk to young people and they'd be like, oh yeah, my mom says I'm going to be a doctor, lawyer, teacher. There's no choice. Yeah. So imagine your entire schooling education, all you're thinking is, I was in a house party the other day for my boy's birthday. He's studying his 5th year medicine, so he's going to be a doctor or whatever. It was all medicine students. And I'm like, why do you do what you do? Oh, my mum and dad got me into it. Yeah. You're in your like late 20s, bro. Like you're doing something that your parents, do you know what I mean? And I think
I think people are coming, and I had it myself. And again, I hate to sort of bang the drum over and over again about why we're doing this, but this is part of the reason is that anything that interests me came through podcasts and interviews and documentaries and that sort of thing. And I wouldn't say I was forced into any particular career, but much like yourself, I was much more like, I'll do something super conventional. I'm not knocking a estate agency because I respect it. Like it is what it is. But I was much more obsessed with, okay, well, this is the way I can make money the quickest. Yeah. And the purpose aspect didn't really interest me. Which is why I found it so fascinating when you said this is something that I want to be there when I die. So yes, for me it was that case of around 25 is when you have that existential sort of moment and go, oh shit, this is it, and it's all a bit of a waste of time, and if I waste it, but arguably at the same time, all those things contribute to your decision and sourcing that idea.
Yeah, 100%. And I think I just think this we are all told a lie that there's almost like this one dream thing you're going to do. And in your mind, because if you think in a one track, because I know I could do this for a period of time and this whole thing could plummet and explode, but that's not the end of the world. Do you know what I mean? There's other things I can do. But if I'm constantly told all the time is this is what you can do and there's nothing really outside of that, you then can't, when that doesn't work out, you just have a nervous breakdown. Do you know what I mean? And I think and with my children, I will just encourage them like, yo, you can do anything, like literally. And if something fails, it fails.
And you can explore and you can 100%.
Fail. I've fucked up so many businesses as a joke. Just before this, I did a jewelry business and it was horrendous. I thought it was genius.
Do you think on that point, failure is the key to success?
Mate, gold. Oh my God, there's so much shit. Being in meetings with clients and I've said something and I'm looking at their eyes and I'm like, I fucked it. And then afterwards, I know not to do that again. Do you know what I mean? Like even now, my entire process when I meet a client is built off the apologies, don't kill me. It's built off the fact I knocked the microphone and I think he's gonna kill me. It's built off the fact
it's a learning curve
of shit I did wrong in meetings. I used to have the maddest agenda when I go into meetings. I had like 9 points. I look at the client, I'm like, here are the 9 things. Now I've got 3. What are you excited about? What challenges are you facing? And how can I help? That's it.
And just on that point, what do you think before you were obsessed with almost being a bit of a perfectionist about it, whereas now you understand, keep it simple, keep it a viable proposition.
Yeah. Bar 90% of any conversation with a client should be them talking. Realistically, I shouldn't be saying anything.
You don't overpitch.
Nah. Mate, amount of times when I was first started selling, I would spend the first 40 minutes talking about how amazing our product and service was. When I was selling alarm systems, I'm like, mate, this will do everything. I didn't even ask him what he wanted.
Figure out who's stealing your stuff before they enter.
Exactly. Yeah. And he's like, mate, I didn't need alarm system. I needed cameras. You've been spending the last hour selling me alarms. I actually need cameras.
So you went straight with the pitch super quickly. Yeah. Before the client even had a chance to talk and say, this is what I'm after.
Exactly. So when I walk in now, I'm like, what are you excited about? Get them talking, get them super excited about life. This is what I'm excited about. All right, so getting to that's what you're excited about. That's what you want to get to. What are the challenges with that? Okay, cool. How can I help?
So you're saying be reactive in general.
And then how can I help? And they go, actually, tell me a little bit more about what you do. By this point, they barely even know, they maybe know a little bit about us. Mm-hmm. And then I start telling them, they go, oh, actually, this can help. And then I'm able to loop back what we do to their challenges. But I wouldn't do that back in the day. Back in the day, it was just...
Do you think that nature of what you do, and that's obviously very, very natural for you, but breaking down, should we say, the business face, the business visage that people starts with, do you think that's been key to your sort of trajectory forward in a business sense, and just really engaging people quickly as opposed to, hello, this is what we're going to do and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I think rapport is everything. And I think for me, at first, I just love making people laugh. So if I walk into the room, I'm going to make you laugh in the first couple of minutes, just because I like to see people smile. If you smile, you're comfortable, you relax a little bit more, and we get on better. So for me, I have my structure in my mind. So I know when I get in, if I do these 3 things.
At one point, not in a rigid order, but at one point.
Yeah, at one point, if I do these things, we're going to be kosher. And they may not sign now, because the world I work in, the sales cycle's so long. I could be working with a client for 2 years before they start bringing in business.
Why is that?
Just because, especially with agencies, they never have, stuff is always happening. And with the big agencies, there's so many different things happening at once that you meet with the chief of strategy, but then a lower level junior strategy person gives you a shout that you've never met before. So it's very much like, these brands, especially and in the house of brands, it's such a mess a lot of the time. They have so many people doing the same jobs and all that. It's very hard to find the real decision makers. But once you do, then you get that continual business from them, and you get retainers and all that kind of stuff.
Sticking with your business, what for you, if you don't mind telling us, like what's the bigger proposition in the next, say, 2 to 5 years?
So what's the vision for it?
Yeah, I guess the vision, the mission, and where are you now in the vision, I guess?
Yeah, great. So the North Stars, what should we call it internally, is 10,000 consultants in the community and 200 clients helped. So that word helped is like key. So it's not like 200 clients won, or it's 200 clients helped. We've helped 200 clients. That's where we want to be by 2024. On where are we in that journey? Nowhere near it. So we're on the way. But
you're definitely at, I get the impression you're definitely at the stage where you feel like you've platformed and you've got the platform ready to push forward.
Yeah. The good thing is I don't have to worry about bills for the next 13, 14 months. Sure. We're nice. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
We're making enough money.
That gives you that freedom to excel.
Yes. And especially as a salesperson, it gives you the opportunity just to relax and be good at what you do, and then for my team to do the same and not have to worry like, oh my God, next month we need to bring on a client or we don't exist type thing. So that's nice. So we're doing way better than I expected us to do. I've set targets and we're overachieving those without a doubt. So I'm super happy with that. But I'm a founder, so I'm never completely happy. I will work us to the, do you know what I mean? But with all that being said, our work-life balance is great. Like we start at 10, finish at 4.
And you feel you have a good sort of business culture in general?
Yeah, 100%. I think for me, if I burn out my team, they leave. They say that Jay's a wanker and then I can't hire anybody else.
Well, and on top of that, I guess if they're happy, then they'll contribute best and be best with it. Just slightly sort of veering off to a different topic. I noticed in some of my research that you're one of 6 kids.
Yeah, bro.
Which is obviously amazing to hear about. How much, I guess what I would say is, would you mind elaborating on that experience and how much that's contributed to what is clear that you're, and maybe, sometimes it's funny because maybe you don't want to talk about your own skills, but how much that's contributed to your I guess your personality, your ability to meet people so naturally, this is the first time we've met today.
Yeah. I love that, bro. I love that. That's like full on research, bro. Nobody really asked me stuff like that. It taught me how to eat quickly. That's one of 6 kids taught me. Because in my house, if there's food left on your plate, they're like, you eating that? I'm like, bro, I'm still like, do you know what I mean? So like, anytime I'm going out anywhere, people are like, why'd you eat so quick? I'm like, bro, because someone's going to take it from me. So that's one thing it taught me. But I think, so I'm actually come from a family of introverts. So the thing is, we're introvert. Not we. I'm definitely not. But my brothers and sisters are introverts unless we're together. Sure. And then suddenly the noise goes through the roof.
Okay.
And it's just mad shouting. So in my house, you had to be very good at saying what you want, super quick and louder than everyone else. So you just built that ability
to be super assertive very quick.
Yeah, like, Mom, I need this really quick, and just being like. Before my sister can walk in, before my brother, especially being the second to last.
No chance to think twice, basically.
Nah, trust me. And then thankfully, I'm super thankful for this, is that I'm almost like the connection between all my brothers and sisters. Some of my brothers and sisters don't really talk that much, but everybody will come to me to find out how everyone else is doing, and I'm thankful for that because it means I've actually built relationships with my brothers and sisters and so on and so on. Because families are hard, you know what I mean? It is what it is. But I think so I think it really taught me just to be assertive about what I want, go get it. And so my mum landed in the country. She just landed from Jamaica, came here, was basically in a terrible relationship with my nan, and it was just a horrible experience for her.
So your mum's Jamaican background and your father?
And my dad is Australian and German.
Okay.
So I'm super confused. But so she landed in the country, just grafted her ass off, got herself 2 degrees, like literally had no educational background, got herself 2 degrees, worked her ass off into a high level in the companies, then went out and started her own business, did all these things like while managing 6 children.
Yeah.
So I come from a family of like, just make shit happen. Like, we don't want to hear your stories. We don't want to hear we don't give a shit that you're on a podcast. We don't care about Forbes. What we care about is that you're doing shit. Do you know what I mean? And I think because I come from that kind of family, it's kind of,
Hopefully they'll care about this podcast.
Yeah, they'll love this one.
Anyway,
this is the main one.
The best one.
Subscribe.
Anyway, carry on. Thank you for that. That was a good advertisement.
You can put that on Instagram. Just crop that out.
We'll just literally do a clip. Just that. Jay Richards says subscribe and like.
So because I come from that kind of background, it just flows into everything you do, which is good. But I think being number 5 out of 6 it made me the extrovert that I am, and I love it. I literally love coming from a big family.
Yeah, it must be great. I mean, I'm not going to go on about it too much, but I come from I'm an only child, and it was quite. I wouldn't complain about it at all.
Yeah.
In many ways, it was great, but it is when I went to other families and saw it was such a different. Yeah, it was surprising. The energy within the household was just really interesting.
With that, do you want to have a big family? I know I'm switching
absolutely.
it. Yeah. Okay. How many would you ideally in your mind?
That's a good question.
When you look, you're like, okay, there's...
fuck. Well, to whoever my future wife is, at least 2. But
remember that.
Yeah, remember that, whoever you are. I know you're watching.
Imagine if she was there.
She is. She is. I hope. Anyway, let's just few final questions, I guess, and then how are we doing on time? 1:20.
Love this, bro.
Nice,
this is
nice.
good, man. I'm enjoying it.
First question I would ask you is: anyone aspiring to be an entrepreneur?
Oh, God.
And maybe it's a bit cliche, but I suspect you'll give quite a good answer. What are the fundamentals you think are important? Not in the sense of what have you got to be good at, but what do you think? What do you think you've got to discover that helps you decide what you want to do within a business? And I mean on a personal level, and what your interests are.
It's a good question. I think every entrepreneur is different. You'll be wildly different from me. I'll be wildly different from you. And I think the first and foremost thing, I mentioned it earlier, is finding a problem that needs solving. As an entrepreneur, you will always love your own idea, and every idea. I remember I was maybe 20 or 21, and I wanted to start my own estate agency. So I somehow convinced some like 65-year-old guy to give me his house. I was like, I'm going to advertise your house for you, and when I sell it, I'm going to sell it for 10 grand more than you want for it, and then I'm going to keep that 10 grand. It's such a dumb idea. Like, who's going to pay 10 grand over the actual price of houses in the area?
Well, you were thinking, I can sell anything, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it didn't work. Like, it flopped. And I was like out, my partner at the time was like out, like door knocking in Birmingham, like trying to flog this house. Like, who's this idiot kid in this like cheap charity suit trying to sell? Do you know what I mean? And I think it wasn't a problem that needed solving. And I thought it was. And I think there's a reason why estate agents are still estate agents. And I think anybody that's trying to start a business, you need to really find a problem that pisses people off enough that they're willing to pay for it. And that may be a small problem, like Calendly. Have you ever used it before? The calendar. So if I want to create, so that started by a guy called Tope. He's from
I've used it. I haven't used it. I've just seen it.
Anyway. Yeah. So, but he was solving a problem. It was a very small problem, but he was solving a problem. And he's now like a $60 million business. Mm-hmm. And I think it's, if you can find an actual problem that people have and you're not making it up in your head, then you've got a business. And then off the back of that, you then need to figure out the best way of utilizing your skills and then moving out of the way for things that you're not good at. So it's almost like so made that kind of complicated. But,
I think that's very well put.
and I think thank you very much. I think if it's like me trying to do operational stuff, it wouldn't make any sense and the business wouldn't go anywhere. Sure. So I step out of the way of that and bring someone in that's really good at that. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's find the problem, then either build the team around it. And obviously I know there's such a wanky thing to say because kind of like, I don't have money, so I'm going to hire a team. But find people around you that are passionate enough to also solve it.
Well, that's, by the way, sorry to interject.
Yeah, no, go.
There, but that is the bit, sorry about the mic there. That is the bit where I think maybe in the early stage you do have to unfortunately learn stuff that you don't want to do.
Yeah. You do need to be a jack or a Jill of all trades at the start. But the moment you can, even if you bring people on as interns, we were laughing about interns earlier, even if you can bring...
One right here.
She just cut him the maddest eyes.
Yeah.
I'm lucky. We're actually lucky Mike's not dead right now.
But I'm not doing very good with my intern right
now. I think it's... that should be in the edit out clips. I love that.
It will be.
I think it's... I lost my train of thought.
You think that... well, that's why I shouldn't have... Yeah. There you go. Yes, we'll put that on the edit as well. You were saying that you were making the point about how you've got to utilize your skills, take a step back, and then you were also saying, and I sort of said I agree, but to some extent, I think in the early stages,
yes, jack of all trades, jack or Jill of all trades. Yeah, jack or Jill of all trades. I think. Yeah, but the moment you can bring on anybody in any way, shape or form, even if it's £150 a month, just pay somebody something so they can take stuff off your plate so you can focus on the things you're good at. But really, it all boils down to the problem. If you find a problem that's worth solving, you could probably build, and this is what I always say to people, are like, I want to build an app. I'm like, shut up, man. Just go to a load of spreadsheets, do it the most manual way humanly possible, and do that for a while. And once you've got a few clients, then go and build your app. And I think a lot of folks, they want to start a business, and then it's, I'm going to build this, and I'm going to build that, I'm going to build this, instead of, I'm just going to find the most manual, ugly way to solve this, and then build from there.
Do you... I'm sort of 80% with you on that. The only thing I do think there is room for better versions of what's already there. Do you see that as an element of still problem solving, or would you agree with that, or do you think you need the tandem effect? I guess
it's still a problem that needs solving because
it's so you see it as, well, if it's got to be better, then it's a problem.
Without Yahoo, we wouldn't have Google. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Yahoo was a shit version of Google. Most young people I speak to, they're like, "What the hell's a Yahoo?" Do you know what I mean? They never used it in their life. But without it, like...
Actually, Gen Z.
Exactly. But without it, we wouldn't have Google. And Google's phenomenal. Do you know what I mean? It has all our data, but it's phenomenal. Yeah. And I think it's... Even stuff like MSN Messenger taught me to touch type. If it wasn't for an MSN Messenger, I wouldn't know how to touch type. Do you know what I mean? I'm like getting over like, what you up to? Do you know what I mean? BRB. G2G.
BRB, I haven't used that in ages.
Mate, G2G, I'm going to start sending that to everybody. G2G. But I think it's stuff...
Hashtag that.
Yeah. But stuff like that that's like super ugly and super buggy, but somebody then iterated on it and developed whatever's next. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's, that's a problem that needs solving. The Yahoo was a problem that needs solving, so they created Google.
Or at least it demanded an evolution of what was already there.
Yes, yeah.
Do you have any business idols or brands that you really admire?
Yes, so brands that I admire, I'd probably start off with Gymshark actually. Super random, not in our space in any way, shape or form. I speak to them, they're really, really cool people internally. But the reason why I love them is they're just the graft is just a whole nother level of graft, and they really latched onto the influencer thing super early and just like
he was definitely leading in that.
Yeah. He made it really, really work. Then people that inspire me, firstly my mum, like super cheesy, but I've never seen anybody graft like she grafts. And we were like broke when we were younger, and I remember just putting in the work. She just put in the work day in, day out, and raised all six of us, and we're all still alive. So I've always been super impressed by my mum. But outside of family members, Elon Musk, obviously he comes from a massive amount of privilege, but
a lot of people say him.
Yeah.
Not that I'm saying but I mean just why in particular.
Yeah, I think so. I read his, is it autobiography or biography? I can't remember which one it was. I want to say it's biography.
I'd love to tell you I know, but I don't.
But I read it maybe a couple of years ago, and I just love his dogged tenacity. he's just like, yo, we need to live on Mars. I'm gonna make us live on Mars. And I think that's for me, it's less of obviously he's achieved mad things, but it's the fact that he is like, I want us to live on Mars.
I guess it's the audacity that you respect.
Yes, yeah. And I love the audaciousness. Obviously you heard what I said when I did what I did when I was in primary school. So that I can imagine he's that type of like character where he's just like, obviously he's like me on steroids. So I'm not trying to compare myself to Elon Musk, because it's not even a comparison. But obviously he's trying to escape our planet because it's absolutely fucked. So he's trying to get to Mars before the rest of us does. But I really appreciate that, and I love the graft. I think he's a phenomenal human being. And there's a few other people within the space that like within the that like they're startup owners. There's a guy I know called William Adewasi, and he's just a grafter, runs a watch company. Okay. Super impressed by him. And
one particular. Sorry to cut you off there.
Again, he's a grafter. And these are like...
You really respect that dogged
it's a tenacity. It's a tenacity. It's like when he's calling me, he's like, yo, I only did this amount of sales this month. It's a hard month. And then he rings me next time and he's like, yo, I've done like $250,000 in the last couple of weeks. Do you know what I mean? It's stuff like that that like, you see the journey close up, which is really, really cool. But outside of those, I don't really have anybody that I'm like, oh, you're my go-to person and you're the person I'm inspired by. Actually, Jay-Z.
Okay.
I don't know why I fucking didn't start with that. Who am I? Am I a caveman? Jay-Z, 100%. Because that is somebody, so when I don't know if you know Jay-Z's story, I'm going to nerd out right now. So when he first started out and he was recording, labels are just like, you're shit, you're trash, your voice sounds trash, everything about you is trash. So he just backed himself, started his own label, and this is before everybody, because now...
I was going to say people do that all the time.
Like it's like a normal thing. But a lot of people now, what they do is they piggyback off a bigger label. So I've started my own label, but technically I'm still connected to a big label. He didn't do that. He was like, yo, we're going to do our own thing. And then every time he's done a deal, obviously he's done some fucked up deals, but most times when he does deals, he's so nice. Like Dame Dash took his equity out of the company that him and Jay had. And then like a year later, Jay sold it for like 200 and something million and then like pocketed a mad amount. And if Dame Dash had stayed in, he would have made like an extra 30 million on what he took out or whatever. There's all these things where he's just super shrewd. And the guy's a billionaire, bro. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like...
And from what he's come from, it's just crazy.
It's mad. Like, if I don't know if you've ever been to Marcy Projects in New York. I've been to Marcy Projects. It is not a very nice area.
Even now.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It is a lot more gentrified now than it was, I can imagine, back in the day. But even walking around there, I was still like, this is the hood.
Yeah.
Like, I could still die. But it's cool to know that he came from there, built what he was building, and then just backed himself. And I think that's is something that I have the utmost respect for.
And even now that he's Rock Nation and sort of become a big guy himself and always taken over other brands, you still think he's doing it the right way? Yeah,
because I think like even the stuff he did with the NFL, because obviously they're a client of ours, so I was like almost in the room and stuff, like when they were like, oh, we're doing this with Jay-Z or whatever. He just does things. He just does things right. Like he's like, okay, I'm going to do this for a lot of the things he does for the community, especially the black community, he doesn't really shout about. He just does it on a quiet, and that's why I love him. Because Kanye is amazing, but Kanye shouts about everything he does. Hove is just like, I call him Hove, like he's my boy. But Hove is just
one
day,
mate.
So I'm in a WhatsApp group with like 150 black entrepreneurs. We call it the Black Illuminati.
Great name.
Yeah, sick. So a lot of like folks have raised like a whole shit ton of cash and whatever. So it's a really decent group of entrepreneurs. And anytime someone's bantering, they're like, yo, I'm waiting for that dinner with Jay-Z. Like every other week it will come up in the convo. But the funniest thing is, so mad sidetrack. So one of my friends, she wrote a song that's on Beyonce's latest album.
Okay.
And her and another friend of mine went to dinner with Beyonce and Jay-Z.
So it's
wild.
Yeah, so it's
wild.
Close. It's close.
Another one.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
But yeah, so I'm basically saying I'm one person. I'm one person removed.
2 or 3 degrees from it.
Yeah, for real. But yeah. Sorry.
No, not at all. It's quite interesting actually. But you mentioned you read Elon Musk's book. So let's talk about books quickly. Any particular books that really resonated with you, that in whether it was a story within a fictional book that really resonated, that, so I don't know, sparked an idea, or maybe particular self-help, or I don't really like the word self-help, but informative books that helps you with your business sort of grounding?
Yeah, good question. I think one I'm reading at the moment is called Influence. Really good book, especially for sales, if you're trying to do sales stuff.
Do you remember the author?
Some white guy. I
remember that.
Just Google Influence by some white guy.
By some white guy, yeah.
So literally I have no idea. It's good, but I don't know why I can never remember authors' names. Steve Jobs, his autobiography, that was phenomenal read. That's like so good. Just hearing like what they had to do, and he was adopted. I didn't even realize he was adopted, and all these different things that happened. That's really cool. What other books have I liked recently?
That's cool. If that's what you want.
I'm trying to think. Cool. I read books. I churn books out. Like I don't know. I didn't used to like reading books when I was a kid, but for some reason now I just
me too. I've become more obsessed with it just because I think it's essential. You know, it keeps your brain alive.
Yeah.
So even like when I'm doing this with you now, not necessarily. Obviously, you've got to research the guest, but just reading in general means you've got a lot more there. You've got a lot more vocabulary and things like that. I think that's very important. Yeah. So listen, just a final question is: I know from a bit of what I've checked, you're quite an exercise guy. Do you have a particular sort of perfect morning routine that really, especially Monday to Friday, is essential? And what is it?
Yeah, bro, I'm a nerd for this stuff, man. So I'm in bed by 9. I'm asleep by 10. I'm up at 6:30, straight into the gym. At my desk normally 8:30, and then in the evenings I do Muay Thai and Jiu Jitsu most evenings. So I love routine. I don't like, that's why people, let's go out and get pissed. I'm like, bro, but it's gonna fuck with my routine.
Yeah.
So like, and if I stay up beyond like 10, I'm done. Don't forget alcohol. I don't need anything. I'm smashed. So it's just morning and evening exercise. Just nice. I like to burn like that 1,000 calories a day. Just exercise.
Do you feel that is essential to your efficiency in your day-to-day life?
100%.
Yeah.
There's nothing that keeps me on point like exercising.
And also, it's a personal factor on your health perspective as well.
Yeah. You like to look good naked, but it's like
well said,
don't know if that's what you meant, but
it's true. That's totally what I meant.
But no, I think I think from a mental health perspective, from a physical health perspective, because I never tell anybody this, but I've actually got no cartilage in my left knee. So my bones are just constantly rubbing together. So I'm basically constantly in pain. That's just how it works. And I was meant to be in a wheelchair by now, by the time I'm 30. So for me, it's like I'm constantly fighting time. So I'm constantly trying to do as much exercise as humanly possible before technically they have to do a knee replacement. Because once they do that, I'm fucked. I won't be able to do the method.
Would you be willing to elaborate on that? How that happened?
Football. So I used to play for Russian and Diamonds when they were a club back in the day. I was pro, I was doing my thing, and then they used to tell you I was a typical wanker, as I said. So they told me, don't play football at school. And I was like, yeah, cool. Played football at school, put my boot in the ground. My foot was facing that way. I turned around and went back that way, and my foot was still facing that way. So I just blew my whole knee out. But back then, they didn't trim cartilages. They just removed it. That was just a practice. So they just removed the cartilages. So my bones just been. So when they showed me an X-ray, and the gap between my knees, like between the joints, is just like, it's just so big. It's hilarious. But I was like, oh, look at this. It's like a whole city.
But what you feel just in general, the exercise, and I guess what you maybe do a bit of physio for it, keeps it alive, so you don't
keeps
have
the muscles strong.
Doing the surgery.
Yeah, exactly. So so it keeps the muscles strong. I'm still in agony like I'm in pain right now, but that's what my mum always laughs, because she's just like, your pain threshold's mad. But
that's amazing, man.
Yeah,
like,
it is nuts.
Respect for that. Like,
it's the human body, man.
Yeah,
like 100%.
You get so adapted to it.
Yeah, like you getting used to that's why earlier when I was saying about getting kicked in the ribs, I don't, like, you just kind of just push through it because you're used to just pain. But anyway, it's all another story.
Okay, so that's pretty much it. Firstly, amazing, like pretty intense and fascinating. Really, really good to hear from you. And just thank you for doing it. I really appreciate you taking the time, and hopefully we'll do one again soon. Hopefully with Kat.
Yeah, well remembered.
Cool.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks, Sam.
Take care. Bravo, man. That was amazing.
Thank you, bro. It was good fun, man.
Very interesting.